Hello, and welcome to the More Than Able podcast. I'm Margie, and I'm joined today by two amazing teachers from my high school, Lisa and Jess. Hi, ladies. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, why is she interviewing these two and where are the others? Well, this is just a solo interview today because Lisa and Jess have embarked on this amazing journey, and they were kind enough to reach out to me and ask if they could be on the podcast to talk about what they're doing. So, Lisa, let me start with you. Talk a little bit about when you started teaching.
Okay, so this is my 20th year teaching. So I knew Margie a long time ago when we graduated, but
We won't go into details about that.
so I'm a special education teacher at a high school. I have worked with students with disabilities of all levels. Started out as a very traditional special education teacher in a self-contained classroom. But over the years, my job has shifted quite a bit. I am now a vocational teacher, so I teach students job skills that will help them as adults, and then and I do that through an art studio. So we make artisan gifts that we then sell, and kids are learning those great skills. And but the other big part of my job is I co-teach Theater for All with Jess, and that is a unified theater program that we kind of we created and have run. So.
And Jess, how about you? When did you start teaching?
Well, I beat Lisa out. I've been at Edina for 23 years.
Oh, wow.
And I teach world literature, but I also teach theater, and I run the theater department at Edina High School. So I had never thought about doing unified theater until Lisa approached me years ago, because I also teach dance, and I was teaching a dance class. And she started having quite a few of her students take my dance class. And then she had an even bigger idea that we should put on a show with her students, and we should try doing a unified whole entire musical production.
Now, for those who don't know what unified is, can you kind of explain it?
Yeah. So unified programming is for students with and without disabilities. And the way I like to think about it is we're programming for students with the most unique needs and then differentiating it for our neurotypical students. So when we think about like our Theater for All program, we're focusing on our students with disabilities because they're the ones who have the most different needs. And then we're figuring out how to make it work for the other students in the room that don't have disabilities.
And roughly, how many students would you say you've had in your unified program this year?
That would require me to do math. But on average, each time we do a class, the class runs one time per semester. So we have one section of it each semester. But each section, every time we run it, it's anywhere between, I'd say, 50 and 75 students would be the max number of students we've had in a class one year. You think more?
I think we even had more than 75. Yeah.
So
Wow.
total then, after how many years?
8.
After 8 years, you can do the math for me.
It's a lot.
I unfortunately cannot do math. That would require a calculator and probably more time than we have here. But do you do like more than one class, or is it just theater?
So for for Theater for All, it's one class. But within the high school, there's also Unified Phi-Ed. That's another unified offering that we have. And then within our program, we have teacher assistants in a lot of our classes. And our students are just in lots of classes with their neurotypical peers. So there's a huge variability of what kids access.
That's awesome. And would you say it's stayed the same over the years, or has it changed?
No, I I think it's really grown over the years, and it's become a class that my theater students, like the students who are doing all of the plays and all the musicals after school, it is a class that they really want to take. It's become quite popular as a class to take. And I just think every year it's grown, more students, and then also some students take it more than once. And because of that, they get more experienced. And then depending on the year, Lisa and I have really been able to push what we're able to accomplish in the show. And it just keeps getting more and more professional.
That's so awesome. We're not just here to talk about your theater background or what's been happening at the high school. You ladies are embarking on what I think is a genius project. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we're super excited. So we were approached by Chris Molquist, who is a parent of two students who took Theater for All. He has his two twin daughters, both have different needs. They came through the program, loved it. They, very much thrived. They changed drastically over the 4 years that we had them. And then they graduated and they kind of lost a lot of those connections with the ability to do theater and then connections within the unified community. So Chris really wanted to create some opportunities for his kids to be able to continue to do those programs. So he's been working behind the scenes.
We'd heard that from so many parents when students would graduate. Well, what can they do now? And we really had nowhere to send them or to guide them when it came to, is there a place where you can continue to do theater once you graduate? So that was part of his idea too, is I keep hearing from people that there isn't an opportunity like this once our students graduate from high school. So we're really excited to pull this together. So what it is we're starting a theater company called Unlabeled Theater. And part of the long-term vision of it is that the theater will be the centerpiece of a day program that will help teach life skills and also offer meaningful employment to people through the basis of the arts and through the theater.
Oh, that is so cool. So, what kinds of things will these students be working on as far as theater or even outside of the theater?
So our artists are going to all have a job within the theater. So there's a lot of things that go into running the theater. It's not just being on stage. It's not just being the director, but there's, building sets. There's writing grants. There's front of house. There's making the programs. There's even down to things like we need to keep our theater clean. We need to, be organized. And so there's lots of work for everybody. So your job within the theater will probably change. We'll run it most likely on a quarterly system. So for these 3 months, you might be the actor on stage. The next month or the next quarter, you might be building the sets or writing grants. So you'll have a job that's connected in the theater in some way at all times.
And we want to base it on the unified model again, so that we have a wide range of artists working in our company. And it's going to be on a partnership model again, where you're partnered with somebody. So we have a lot of guest artists that we will also hire in, not necessarily on a full year basis, but depending on the production that we're working on. And I feel really confident that eventually, because of the ties that I have in the theater community and the ties that Chris has in the theater community, that some of these guest artists are going to be names that people have heard of before. We are going to be able to have Broadway stars come in and work at our company and work with our artists.
That is so cool. So, Lisa, talk to me about what kind of inspired you to want to make this collaboration with Jess.
With way back in the day.
Yes.
So what happened was I saw at Children's Theater, I saw Shrek the Musical. Remember sitting there watching the show and just thinking oh, these characters remind me so much of some of my students that I had at the time. And just thinking I wish my kids had this opportunity. I would love to see them on stage to be able to do this. And I think, that was 9 years ago. And even 9 years ago, what we thought people with disabilities could do was so different. As a desire of this, of me as a teacher, I wanted my kids to be able to have that opportunity, but at the same time, there wasn't a place for them to do that, to learn to do those skills. Oftentimes you have to come in with this level of knowledge in order to even just be able to access those services, knowing that for them to do that, we would have to build something from scratch, and not really knowing how to do that within the confines of a school day. So, I kind of tucked it away and didn't really, think about it again until we had this meeting where they threw on us that we were going to be doing May Term for All, that every student for the last, was it 10 days?
It was like 6 days. So this was about 8 years ago. Edina
Yeah.
High School decided that the last 6 days of school was going to be a brand new term. And
Yep.
so they wanted teachers to come up with new classes that were just going to run for 6 days.
Yep.
And initially, I was going to do a dance class. And Lisa said, "Oh, great. Then I'm going to put all my students in your dance class." And then she changed her mind.
we remember this very differently. Yeah, that's interesting. That's not how I remember this.
That's how I remember it. But I'm going to take us back even further. One of the things that is really great about unified programming, and that I am so thrilled that Lisa came to me, is that initially when I had this dance class and Lisa started enrolling her students in my dance class, not that I was against it, I just had absolutely no training. And I had never thought about, well, what am I going to do in a dance class if I have a student who comes to me who uses a wheelchair?
Right.
If I have a student who enrolls in my class who's nonverbal.
Right.
I mean, I'd never had that training. I never thought about it. And it really made me grow as a teacher and as an artist, because I had to say, these are all my students. And I have to find a way to reach all my students and to teach all my students, including one of my favorite stories is when Lisa first enrolled a student in my dance class who used a wheelchair. I'm like, well, then can I not do the tap unit? Like, I don't know how to teach somebody tap if they can't use their feet. And then we had a costume designer at the time who I finally was like, well, maybe he could use his hands. And she built tap mittens. And so, and then we got a board. And so he would make the rhythm with the tap mittens. So that really started my journey. And it's made me a better artist. It's made me a better theater artist, because I've had to be much more creative and think outside the box.
Wow, that is so amazing. So I want to go back to this new venture. So not only are you guys, like you talked about, not only are you doing this theater program, but you're also going to be teaching these adults life skills. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, so when Chris originally had come to us to talk about it, I was like, I love theater. I have so much passion for it, but it's not the only thing that I'm passionate about. To me, I think theater as work, theater as, enjoyment, like those are all really valuable things, but I can't walk away from a job where I feel like I am able to educate students in so many ways to be able to, be independent as adults. Like, I really want, at the end of the day, to feel like I've made the difference, that I now have students that can live independently, who can do their own grocery shopping, that know how to work out at the YMCA, that they can take the bus, they can do those things. And so when Chris had approached us about that, I was like, it's not the only thing I can do. I need to do more than that. I can't leave teaching in order to do that. And the more conversations we had, we were like, no, that actually needs to be a part of what we do. Theater might be the center of what we do and how we bring people in. But at the end of the day, we need our artists to walk out with skills that then increases.
It's a means to an end.
Yeah.
We use theater as a means to an end.
Yep.
So, although I'm just in it for the theater.
Well, and to be able to like walk out of the theater and be like, okay, I'm going back to my own place now. Like, I'm going to work on these skills. Like,
yeah, one of the things that we really hope to be able to do is we want to rent an apartment so that we can really teach people how to live independently, and, simulate what that's like to do the meal prep, to clean, do your laundry and do all of those things. But we also really, like, we hope that at some point we'll be able to do short-term rentals so that we can have people use our apartment to try it out for a month to see, like, do I want to live independently? What skills am I needing to still gain in order to be successful? I have a former student who, she just moved out. They rented an apartment for a year. They furnished it. They did all of that. And 2 weeks later, she moved back in with her parents because she just wasn't ready for it. So I think we have an opportunity that we might be able to give that, like a stepping stone. Like, just try it out, see what it is that do you like it or not? Living independently isn't going to necessarily be for everybody, but even if you want to continue to live at home or you want to live in an apartment, we can still teach you skills that help you be able to do that more independently. So really looking at the long term, like, what does this individual, need to, gain that independence and, make choices for themselves.
So we'll probably, our inaugural year, it'll be small. You can't do everything that you want to do in the first year that you open something. So absolutely, we'll have a season with performances. But as the years grow, we want to add on this programming where somebody could be coming, 5 days a week for almost the entire day for classes before we get to rehearsal that day for some type of class. And it would be a variety of programming and classes, based on what an individual wants, what they need, what type of training they want, how they want to fill their day. And I'm really excited. So as we're looking for spaces, that's also, we're looking for a space that we can grow into, that we can eventually turn into, okay, this first part will convert into a theater, but then we need offices, we need classrooms. Kitchen. Oh, hey, we want to open up a cafe too as part of the company. We want to open up a gift shop, so people come to the show an hour and a half early, hang out in the cafe, they see the show, and then on their way out, they hit the gift store.
Just like any other theater production. Like if you go to the dinner theater or if you go to like any other theater. That's awesome. So, Lisa, I know when you and I had talked before, you had mentioned something about civil rights for those with disability at the forefront and accessibility. And Jess, I would like your take on this as well, if you're familiar with it. Can you talk more about that?
So I think we don't always do a great job, we meaning educators, society, of really letting people know about their disabilities, about their needs, what their strengths are. And I think that we really need to change that. We need to do a lot more education, and we really need to empower people, right? Like, we need to let people know, like, you're your own individual, you have rights, you get to make these choices. And I think that's part of our goal, is that we really need to give people the tools on how to do that. Not only is it important for every human being, right? But it's also a safety thing, right? Like, we need to teach our artists how to be safe and how to be able to advocate for themselves and for their peers, right? We just, really important to me personally that we build that as part of our, like, core mission.
Yeah. And as the artistic director of the company, I've really been listening to Lisa talk about all of these issues. And I've been thinking about the students that I work with now and what they want to explore and what they want to talk about and what they're facing. And so as I put together a season of programming, part of that season is going to be finding plays that actually address these issues, but also eventually doing original pieces that the artists will write themselves so that they have a platform, they have a way to express themselves, and for their voices to be heard and their stories to be told. So one of the plays that I want to do for the inaugural season is a play called Jellyfish, and it explores all of these issues that Lisa's talking about. It's a mother and daughter, and the mother is really struggling with allowing her daughter to be independent and to find her own way of living and to live independently, and even to have relationships and to get married and to explore romantic relationships. So these are really big ideas and issues that we want to help our artists explore at our company.
Wow, that just gave me chills. That is like so amazing. Um so for this program, how can people get involved? Like what do you need per se from our listeners if they want to contribute or
So right now we're trying to get things up and coming. We have a goal of raising $1 million by the end of the year, which is a pretty big goal, I think.
by the end of the calendar year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And right now we're working on things like finding space. That's a big deal, is trying to figure out space that will work for our programs, not just what we want to start with, but where we can build, making sure that it's accessible from the get-go and we're not trying to retrofit things. But yeah, we're fundraising, finding space, building our supporters, building our board of directors. Yeah.
And a great way that people can stay connected to us. We have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page, and then on those pages we have a link to a form that you can fill out to become a part of our subscribers, so that we can keep everybody up to date as we build and as programming starts, so that people can register for that. And it's Unlabeled Theater, and that's all you really need to type in, I think, into Facebook and Instagram, and you'll find us.
Yep.
And that's what we've been telling people to do first, is to become a subscriber, and then you'll be getting our part of our mailing list and getting our newsletter, so that we can reach out to people. And part of that too is you will check on this form, like, who are you? How do you think you can help? And how are you interested? You know, are you somebody that wants to become one of our artists, that you want to become a part of the program, a guest artist? Do you have a sibling that you're interested in sending our way? Or if there's fundraising, any way that you think that you want to help or become involved.
It's going to take a lot of hands to pull this all off. So
absolutely. And I know I speak for my team. We can put it on our Facebook and our Instagram pages to help spread the word, because I got to tell you guys, and Jess, you don't know this, and Lisa, I don't think you know this either, but when Lisa first approached us, when she first sent the email, we were so excited, especially my wonderful producer, Jasmine, who's sitting right next to me. She loves theater more than I think anybody I've ever met in my entire life. And so when I approached the team with this, she was like, let's do it. Let's go. Let's do this.
Well,
And
it's pretty amazing, because I've been doing theater my whole entire life. That's what I do. I dance, I sing, I act, and now I direct and choreograph, and I teach. And people who come to see these shows, and our first show that we did, I mean, I don't think it's exaggerating to say that we kept crying during rehearsals and getting goosebumps, because there's something different about these productions and the way that partners work with each other. Oh, I don't think we talked about, did we talk about that? So
oh, yes, please.
our shows are done on a partnership model where at least two people do a role together. And the partnerships work differently depending on who's in the partnership. So for example, you might be in a partnership where your partner is completely nonverbal and uses a wheelchair as a way to get around. So you might be voicing for them. Or there might be a partnership where maybe you're an artist where you've just never been on stage before, and you need somebody who's more experienced just to kind of help you learn your part, to help you know where to go. But by the end of it, by the time we open, you're pretty independent. And so that person is just there on stage with you, maybe just one step upstage of you, just there just in case you need
also
something.
Still that role was built together.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it would work. You're like, what do you
But
mean?
it totally works.
There's two of this and two of that, and you're like, no, it does. Like it doesn't feel weird when you watch it. It makes sense. But yeah, we all compensate for each other. I mean, there are a lot of things that I have to help Jess with.
Oh,
A few
boy.
things that she helps me with. But we're a partnership. We're a partner, and it's the same
Yeah.
thing with our artists that they work together to create these roles that they just become one.
And so what happens when you come to see one of our shows, it's that interaction of the partners as they're doing their roles together that is quite moving.
Mhm.
It's very powerful. And that is the point where we've had lots of professionals come see our shows. People have been working in the theater for years, and they come and see our shows. And this is a direct quote from one theater producer. He came to see the show and he said, I have to rethink everything I ever thought about theater now that I've seen your show.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I just got chills. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and how great for these students, both Lisa, your students, and Jess, your students, to see you two as teachers kind of come together and form this partnership as a model of like, okay, Miss Freilich or Mrs. Freilich and Lisa are doing this, so I can do this with this person and make it work.
And they do. The students watch Lisa and I collaborate together. They also see us have conflict and resolve conflict. Well, it's true. But I think that's important. One of the most important things I think I ever learned as a parent, and then a parent who would do therapy, is to have people tell me your kids actually need to see you have conflict, healthy conflict, that you disagree, and how do you resolve that? And so our students watch Lisa and I do that sometimes in rehearsal and in class, where we go, wait, what? That's what we were doing today? I totally disagree. And they watch us do that. But they totally see that there's no way that this show could come together if both of us were not in the room directing it together. There's just no way. It's not a one-person operation.
That's so cool. And how has the feedback been from your fellow teachers and the staff at the school, at the high school?
I think one of the unexpected things that have come out of Theater for All is that we have created a home for so many students that needed a home. So it wasn't just our students with disabilities that benefited from this program, probably not even the most. We had a lot of students that were not connected to other people in the school. Maybe they didn't have friends, they weren't successful in classes. We have provided a place of connection for them. And that's probably one of the things that we're most proud of, is that we've had students that they wouldn't have graduated from high school if they hadn't had Theater for All. That they didn't know what they wanted to do with the rest of their life, and now they've moved into. Some of them have become special ed teachers, and some of them have become like architects that work on accessibility, or they've gone into their life with this new lens and this new focus that of inclusion, and how to make that just part of what they do. But it's not just been our students with disabilities that have benefited from this. It really
we have the students write a reflection essay at the end of the semester just to talk about their journey. And some of the things they've said have been so honest and so powerful. We've had some students who accidentally signed up for the class and who wanted to drop it because they had never been in a room with anybody who wasn't neurotypical, physically able. I mean, it was so they've been really honest in their essays to say, I wanted to drop the class. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't know what this was all about. And now that I'm done with the semester, I suddenly realize all of these issues in this country that I need to address. I need to address accessibility issues. I need to we need to change some laws. But students really taking a look at themselves and really having this similar journey that I had when you first approached me. I had to take a look at myself and say, what have I not been aware of my whole entire life? And what have I actually been prejudiced about? And I need to break down my own prejudices and my own biases. And students are doing that. besides the kids who are like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite class of the day, and I wouldn't come to school if it weren't for this this hour.
Yeah.
And the friendships and the relationships
Yeah.
that are formed are just phenomenal.
That's so awesome. So I know there's also a vocational art studio that has been made.
Yes. So that's been the last 4 years. I've taken on a new role. I'm the vocational education coordinator. So I um, teach all the work classes for our students with disabilities, and we do it through a vocational art studio, breaking down tasks so that every student gets to participate in these, making these different products, and then they all come together and we sell them at the end. But it's giving the opportunity to think about work in a different way. For so long, people with disabilities, they had menial tasks that they did, or factory work, or they didn't work at all. And my job as a high school teacher is to have them leave with work skills, right? Like, I don't expect that every student that comes out of my program will turn, and become an artist, right? Like that will be their full-time job. But I can teach you how to get a job, how to check in, how to take directions, how to find materials, how to ask for help, how to make mistakes, how to fix mistakes. All of those are the skills that I'm really teaching. I'm just doing it through an art studio. But it could be through anything. I picked an art studio because I also really feel passionate that we need to allow people with disabilities to be creative. I think for so long we did not provide those opportunities. So it's been really successful. I really enjoy the work. It's a lot of work, but the pride that I see the students come out with, it just
Yeah, and then it's been able to feed into our theater class because Artwork Studio then helps us make props and set pieces through Artwork
costumes.
Studio costumes.
Mhm.
So that also fed into our idea of starting a theater company as the centerpiece for a day program
Mhm.
that would offer meaningful employment and teach skills, because we realized you can actually teach almost every skill,
Mhm.
work skill and life skill that you need through a theater company.
Oh, that is so cool. So before we go, I just want to ask if you ladies have any advice or anything you want to say to anybody, whether it's a parent who's thinking about enrolling their student or their 21-year-old in the program, or someone who even is like, hey, I might want to try and help out with this.
I think we look at every person has something to give, right? That whether you have a disability or not, like, everybody has something that they can contribute. It's our job to help you figure out what that is and what you want to do. So I guess I would say, whoever you are, whatever you bring to the table, we would love to have you involved.
And I really feel like, as a director and a choreographer and as a teacher, one of the greatest gifts of my life has been helping people find their voice, their artistic voice. How do you get to express yourself artistically? Because everybody deserves that opportunity. And I think if you think about parents, I think sometimes even parents don't know what their own children are capable of.
Mhm.
And we've had that happen a lot, where parents have come to see the show and they say, they're crying while they
Yeah.
say it, I didn't know that my daughter, I didn't know that my son could do this.
Our first show that we did, I spent weeks convincing parents to allow me to have their children take part in this. And so many parents were reluctant because they thought that I was going to put their kid on stage, and that all that people would be able to see is their disability and not be able to see them as an actor. Like, they were terrified. I mean, I had to reassure parents, like, I am showcasing who your child is. I promise you that there is not going to be anybody in that audience that's judging them. They're going to see them for who they are.
And that's been a guiding principle for almost every choice we make artistically, is this showcasing this person's ability, or is it putting their disability on display? And if it's the latter, then we switch it. It's got to be showcasing abilities.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Lisa and Jess, thank you for coming on the show. And we will post links to the Unlabeled Theater Company. Did I say that right?
Yes.
On our social media pages. And if you have questions, just reach out to me and I will put you in touch with these amazing ladies. So thank you everybody for listening, and just remember, you're more than able.